So I'm Joe Sepulveda. I'm an assistant medical director at Family Health Centers of San Diego, and also the medical director overseeing SUD services for the organization. Problem is what happens when you start using these irresponsibly, whether that be the prescriber prescribing too much or too long, or the patient using it irresponsibly. An interesting statistic that everyone should be aware of is that 80% of people who are addicted to heroin have started with prescription pain pills before they graduated to heroin. Okay? If opioids make you feel good, that's a common characteristic of opioids. If you chase that good feeling, which some people are genetically predisposed to do so, that will lead to consequences. If you take more than prescribed, that's going to lead to consequences. So it's going to turn into a runaway train. If you mix it with substances such as alcohol, benzodiazepines would be Valium, Xanax, Ativan, that could lead to fatal complications. Slowing your respiratory rate, stopping your respiratory rate, going into a coma, dying. Those are the complications that you'll have. And needless to say, you can also develop addiction. And again, you can develop addiction from misuse or chronic use. What does that look like? Well, anyone has the potential of becoming addicted to opioids. That means anybody in this room. Okay? If you take an opioid for long enough, a period of time, everyone has a likelihood that they will develop addiction. So these are 3 sentinel studies that outline that risk. There was one study that showed that the prevalence is as high as 50% for developing an opioid use disorder if you're on chronic maintenance therapy. There's another study that indicated that if you are on an opioid for 90 days at a certain strength, you have 100 times likelihood of developing an opioid use disorder compared to someone that was not prescribed an opioid. That's huge. 100 times is huge. Okay? But it doesn't take 90 days. It can be less than that. And this is outlined in this study. And the reason why the CDC is currently recommending that for acute pain, you only be prescribed an opioid for about 3 days, no longer than a week, is because of this study that took place. So you can see here, after 5 days of being prescribed an opioid, the likelihood that you will remain on that opioid 1 year and 3 years out significantly increases. Okay? Hence, the longer you're on an opioid, the greater likelihood you will develop an addiction. The graph on the right over here depicts the number of prescriptions that you're given. And again, the more prescriptions that you're given, the higher likelihood that you will remain on the opioid and develop an addiction. So let's talk about addiction and stigma. Now, traditionally, addiction has been treated in the following way. It's a social problem, it's not a health problem. We've had the war on drugs, it didn't work. We've treated it like a social problem, it hasn't worked. The reality is it's a medical disease and it needs to be treated as such. And if it is treated as such, we have pretty good success in combating this disorder. So let's start with basic principles. What is addiction? Addiction is a brain disease. Okay? It's a brain disease. There's an organ that is affected by addiction. How do we know it's a brain disease? Okay, well, let's start with how would a layperson determine that someone has a brain disease? Well, there's behavioral manifestations or behavioral expressions of a brain disease. So an example, Alzheimer's. If someone has advanced Alzheimer's, they have memory loss. Anyone here can see an advanced Alzheimer's patient and say, there's something wrong with this person, his memory is bad, he has a disease, he has an illness, he needs help. Okay? Same goes for schizophrenia. If a person that suffers from schizophrenia, their behavioral expression is unusual perceptions of reality and mood changes, meaning that they will respond to stimuli that's not there. They will have conversations with a voice that is not there. As an example, anyone in this room would be able to say that person is sick, that person needs mental health care. They have a disease. That is no different than addiction. Okay? The behavioral manifestation for addiction is cravings which lead to uncontrolled compulsive use. That is their behavioral manifestation of that illness, of that brain disease. The thing, though, is that you'll see changes in the brain well before you see those behavioral expressions emerge, such as this study here. So if we take a control, and we take a person that have used cocaine, and we put them in a certain imaging study called an fMRI that detects metabolism, you will see that the metabolism changes in the brain. So if you look at the fluorescent green, you'll see that there's less of it over on the side of the cocaine abuser. There is a fundamental change that took place in the brain. This is no different than any other organ in the body. This is a heart. This is a healthy heart. You can see the red. That's a good metabolism for the heart. If the heart is damaged or a disease, you will see the metabolism pattern change. Now, if someone comes in with a heart attack or had a heart attack and is climbing up a flight of stairs and says they can't do it, they're out of breath, no one would say, ha, you're not trying hard enough. No. You should stop taking your medications because you don't really need it. No, no one would ever say that, right? Because we know that there's something wrong with the heart, there are medications that can treat it, and we know there's a reason for why you are limited in doing certain things and why you need care.